Motorola just pulled back the covers on yet another launch for 2024. Or rather, it flipped the lid open on a big update to its Razr and its Razr Plus, one that should keep them much more competitive against Samsung's ever-evolving Galaxy Z Flip. Now, all signs point towards a Razr and a Razr Plus that are good enough to stand on their own as flip phones, rather than rely on a healthy dose of early 2000s nostalgia. Here are 5 things that you need to know about both Motorola Razr and the Motorola Razr Plus. First, the Motorola Razr Plus once again has the biggest cover screen you'll find on a flip phone. This year, Motorola expanded its external panel from 3.6 inches to an even 4 inches, essentially eliminating the thicker bezel that sat next to the hinge. It's still an AMOLED panel, and still has a probably overpowered 144 Hz refresh rate, but it's still made of Gorilla Glass Victus, so you shouldn't have to worry about durability. Motorola's more affordable Razr, on the other hand, pretty much picks up right where last year's Motorola Razr Plus left off, shifting from a 1.5-inch external display that was basically for notifications only, and picking up the 3.6-inch panel that we saw on the previous model. The internal display, on the other hand, is almost unchanged from the previous generation on both Razr devices. It still sits at a sweeping 6.9 inches and packs 165 Hz LTPO refresh rate on the Razr Plus. However, this year's Razr display is significantly brighter than last year, topping out at a peak 3000 nits of brightness, over doubling the previous mark of 1400 nits. And, almost as important as those two displays is the updated hinge that ties them together. Quite frankly, the hinge was one of the worst parts of the previous Razr Plus, as it never felt quite sturdy enough or positionable enough as the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip did. Now, Motorola boasts that its hinge is 30% slimmer than the previous generation and has been designed for better dust protection. Interestingly, both the Razr and the Razr Plus now come with IPX8 ratings, which is an upgrade over the previous IP52 in terms of water resistance, but at least on paper offers less dust resistance despite what Motorola says about redesigning its hinge. The new hinge should also minimize the appearance of the crease across the P-OLED display, but we'll kind of have to keep an eye on that one over time, as they tend to be not too bad at first, but kind of work their way in after months of opening and closing the device. Another one of Motorola's changes for 2024 is a completely revamped camera setup on the Motorola Razr Plus. Ultra-wide is out, and megapixels are in, with the Razr Plus picking up a pair of 50 megapixel sensors, in place of the previous 12 and 13 megapixel duo. And when I say ultra-wide is out, I mean the Razr Plus simply doesn't have an ultra-wide camera. Engineers at Motorola figured out that most users were spending their time at 2x zoom rather than 0.5x zoom, so they swapped the ultra-wide sensor for a telephoto, just to double down on a little bit of that portrait performance and the ability to punch in on finer details. Personally, I'm a big fan of this change, as I've never really been an ultra-wide camera user, and I've already lamented Motorola's underwhelming zoom capabilities in the past, and the Razr Plus's primary camera is already wide enough to capture most scenes without having to punch out to an ultra-wide camera. The regular Razr, on the other hand, sticks with a little bit more of a tried-and-true setup, keeping the 50 megapixel primary sensor, but pairing it with the 13 megapixel ultra-wide that we saw on the previous generation of flip phones. On top of the hardware changes, the new Motorola Razr series actually has a couple of camera tricks to help you tap into a little bit of that nostalgia from previous Razrs and the early 90s. Both phones support photo booth mode on the internal and external cameras, which means that it'll grab a series of 4 exposures, allowing you to swap between different poses for each one. Motorola has also reworked camcorder mode on both Razrs, so that it automatically starts taking a video once you fold your Razr to a 90-degree corner and lift it up sideways. One of the things behind many of these camera features, and a lot of the other things that you can do on the Razr Plus, is a chipset that we haven't seen in a flip phone, at least until now, and that's Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8S Gen 3. Now, you might be asking yourself why Motorola went for the 8S Gen 3 over the more powerful 8 Gen 3, and it's a valid question. Well, the simplest answer to why Motorola might have done this is probably because of the fact that the 8S Gen 3 is significantly cheaper than the full-speed 8 Gen 3. Grabbing Qualcomm's slightly more affordable chipset means that Motorola was able to keep its Razr Plus price at the same point as last year, while adding several new AI features to the mix. Some of those features might not run quite as fast on the Razr Plus as they would on a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 powered phone, but it's better to have those AI features while maintaining the price and maintaining the Razr Plus's slim footprint, just to keep it competitive against most of its flip phone rivals. Also, although it has a lot in common with the previous Razr Plus, this year's Motorola Razr switches from Qualcomm's internals to MediaTek's Dimensity 7300X chipset. And since we're talking about AI on the Motorola Razr and the Razr Plus, let's dig a little bit deeper into what the company has in store for Moto AI, including a couple features that are available now and most that'll be coming later on this year. For starters, Motorola has rebranded its base Android skin from MyUX to Hello UX and brought with it a whole host of new customization features. Both Razrs offer the ability to generate AI wallpapers, either based on the picture of what you're wearing for the day, which is called Style Sync, or using written prompts of anything you can come up with, which is what Motorola calls Magic Canvas. You will need to log into a Motorola account to use Magic Canvas, but it's a lot more open and flexible than Google's Mad Lib style wallpaper generator. Motorola is also using AI to boost its cameras, adding adaptive stabilization to both Razrs, and bringing extra goodies like Action Shot, which gauges the speed of your subject and automatically adjusts your shutter speed to the Razr Plus. Both of Motorola's 2024 Razrs also come with Gemini installed right out of the box, which means that you'll have to choose whether you want to go with Gemini or Google Assistant during the setup process. They also come with 3 months of Gemini Advanced at no extra cost, so you can tap into Google's most advanced AI features and also enjoy an extra 2 terabytes of cloud storage space. Just keep in mind that once your 3 months runs out, it will automatically renew, so you'll have to choose whether it's worth paying the $20 a month or whether you can live without Gemini for the time being. As for Hello UX itself, I'm happy to report that neither Razr comes with Motorola's dreaded shopping, gaming, and entertainment hubs. The partnership with OneWeather is nowhere to be found, and there's no option for glance on your lock screen. Now, if only Motorola could clean up the rest of its software and make it feel a little bit more like the Razr and Razr Plus. The final, and probably most important thing you'll want to know about the Razr and Razr Plus is when you can actually get your hands on them, and how much they're going to cost you. Like last year, the base Motorola Razr starts at $699. It now comes in Koala Gray, Beach Sand, and Spritz Orange, and will be available for pre-order starting on July 10th before opening to wider sales on July 24th. The premium Razr Plus also starts at the same price as last year, a cool $999. This time it comes in Midnight Blue, Spring Green, Hot Pink, and Pantone's 2024 Color of the Year Peach Fuzz. If you're ready to buy, the Razr Plus will also be available for pre-order starting on July 10th, once again with wider sales on July 24th. And in the meantime, you can learn more about both Razrs down below.